Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, episode 62. My name is Eddie Rivkin. I'm joined as always by Lindsey Brown of Lotus Broadcasting and Chris Chapman of Fox Sports Vegas. This episode, like all others, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com, your home for everything Las Vegas, and by Dr. John Pierce at Ageless Forever, www.agelessforever.net. Concierge medicine and the best care that you'll ever have. You have my word on that. Anything that ails you, if you just want to feel the best about yourself and be the best you, look up Dr. John Pierce at Ageless Forever, www.agelessforever.net. Well, kids, the Golden Knights have completed a couple of pretty long road trips. Last night was their first trip through the great Canadian Northwest. They got 4 points out of 6. They took an OT loss, a shootout loss, and then last night they spanked the Vancouver Canucks like they've been a bad child. Is there anything really to complain about? They started scoring goals. Is everything right in the world now that Bruce Cassidy has had a couple of heated moments where he's explained or shared his displeasure and a whole bunch of line juggling, which we'll get into a little bit later? Is the great lull of the 2023-2024 season over? Lindsey Brown?
This one is. They're probably going to go through one more. Like that's hockey, right? Last year in January, they struggled. I guess it was technically 2023, but last season in January, they went to the East Coast and they really didn't do too well. You were there.
I watched them lose all 3 games on that trip. But the significance of that trip is they played very well. And even Bruce Cassidy said that they didn't get the result, but he was really happy with the process. So
yeah, I think last season you could see the it was coming in that Islanders game. They just didn't have the ability to get the W. Well, we saw last night in the Vancouver game the way they absolutely just ripped the Canucks apart. This was a team that was flying high. They're in 3rd place in the Pacific. They're exceeding expectations. Good coach, a lot of good young players. The Golden Knights reminded them, it's our division. You might play in it, but at the end of the day, it belongs to us. And that game was over early, I thought. Like the Golden Knights they flexed their muscle. You got the goal from Eichel in his 500th game, the goal from Barbashev. Maybe that'll get him. I know we keep saying maybe that'll be the one that gets him going. But I just thought last night was the best game that they've played in a long time. And, and that's not to discount the effort in Dallas the night before Thanksgiving, but this was a complete, no doubt, 60-minute effort by the guys. And, they got a power play goal. I just thought they played well on the road trip. It would have been nice to get that W in Calgary, but you know what? You got a point out of it. The third period against Edmonton, I feel like that was kind of like, all right, you know what? Enough of this shit. Let's get things rolling. And they were good. They were not too far away from winning that game in overtime. So, I thought all in all, it was a successful road trip. Look, anytime you get 4 out of 6 points, you're going to be thrilled on the road, especially when you're going through Western Canada. So it's success, and we'll see. They got the Capitals coming in, and it should be a good game because there's always a little bit of emotion when these two teams meet for various reasons. And let's see what they do. Keep it going. Let the Capitals know that a couple of weeks ago was a fluke and that you're better than them, and kick their ass out of your building.
But you've also only won 1 game out of your last 4, technically. And I know we can take a little bit of a consolation prize with that point that they stole up in Edmonton. But the word process that you mentioned, Eddie, that's what this all is all about. Like, I'm not going to try to get too high or too low on anything that they're doing right now. They're still working out of it because you have guys like Barbashev, we were getting off the schneid, but at the same time, Jonathan Marchessault is still on that struggle bus. And this team just isn't as healthy when he's not healthily scoring. When he's not feeling that confidence, that vibe. And the thing is that I love about him is that he's always going to shoot. Like he's going to keep shooting. Like he doesn't get dissuaded anything, he probably doubles down on a few more opportunities than he should. And so I have full confidence that they'll continue to work themselves out of it. But this is where you're thinking back about last year and the costs of winning a championship, and that carrying over to this year with the number of injuries that we've seen to the defensive core of this team right now. And then you think about, well, how much longer of a journey it still is for the rest of the season in a very competitive division, obviously, just based off of what we've seen in the last handful of games. And so with that, you have to start looking at strategically, how do you keep everybody afloat? How do you keep everybody fresh? This is where I think the meat of the coaching really begins for Bruce Cassidy, because this is when time gets hard, where you've had enough time, where things have added up, bumps, bruises, good streaks, bad streaks, but then there's still so much time ahead. And so you're going into that dark part of the tunnel. And I think this is a good enough core that they'll trust in themselves to be able to figure it out against teams like the Washington Capitals that they should beat, like they should have beat them a couple weeks ago and not get shut out. But until this team is consistently finding a way to succeed on the power play, to just get that pressure up offensively and just have that more consistent presence, I'm not willing to say that they're quite out of that lull, but things are perking up, Eddie.
Well, I think last night was an example of the team that we expect to see, probably unfairly expect to see 82 times a year. I mean, Quinn Hughes of the amazing Hughes brothers, I know that sounds like a juggling act in a circus, but I mean,
got the winner last night.
You know, they effectively shut them down. Elias Pettersson completely shut down. And Bruce talked about it after the game. He said, you know, we cut down on their angles and his angles to ability to be, you know, push up the ice and stuff like that. They were a very average Vancouver Canucks team. And I think, you know, don't quote me on statistics. Don't ever quote me on statistics. I think 9-0-2 in that building and maybe 15-2-3 overall against Vancouver. I mean, Vancouver was never competitive in the game. I mean, I think the 2 wins for Dallas were super significant. I think the best game of the year they played was certainly against Colorado. But in this, if we call it a lull, because I'm not going to call it a slump like other clickbaity places call it slumps, right?
Well, Vancouver's your slump buster, if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, between Vancouver and the one home game against San Jose, right? You know, that cures what ails you. But they were just completely dominant on in all facets of the game. And I think I agree, Lindsey, they're not out of it, but I think that, you know, message sent, message received. Bruce was super not happy a couple of games ago, and I sent you guys the quote, and I'll see if I can dig it out, where, you know, he said, you know, when they decide that they want to start finishing and going to the hard areas, I'm like, hello.
Call them out. Call them out.
Right.
No,
Absolutely.
no
Get in that psychological kitchen and start rattling shit around until people start waking up. That's literally what it is. And I think there's also something to take away other than the dominant effort over Vancouver last night, is that this is a team in Vancouver that was not expected to have this amount of success. It kind of seems quick considering what the last few seasons have been with them. And so by going up there and kicking their ass, you plant that little psychological seed. They don't see each other again as I'm looking until March. And if the Canucks are able to sustain the pace that they're on, and that's more, I think, a question of, well, is Edmonton going to wake up? Like, what's Seattle? Like, we'll see how things go and things percolate within the division. But don't underestimate a good ass kicking early on in a season to a team that is just learning how to act like they've been here before again. With those little things matter, especially if they're not going to see each other for a long time. Because when they look back at the sky, they'll be like, oh shit, remember how badly it went with this? And we were riding so high, and then all of a sudden, boom, we just got smacked right in the face. It's a little edge, but one that I think that they might need this year.
Well, I think that Coach Tocchet probably was not happy last night.
No.
You know, and you know how, I mean, we got a little taste of the Canadian reporters last year during the playoffs. But you could tell especially in the post games, they kept trying to needle Bruce into talking about Vancouver, and they tried to get him right. They just kept
do a yardstick measurement. How far away are we, Bruce?
Right.
Because that's what we're all measuring against the champions. I mean, the same thing was happening with the Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. They're like, so how wide is the gap still?
Yeah. So, but Bruce isn't buying it. He's like, listen, you'd have to go over to their room and ask Talk how he felt about their game. I mean, it was a very eloquent dodge.
Yeah.
And
that's how it's done. He's a master of that.
And
don't legitimize them.
I think that the fact that he's completely juggled the lines, and he kept juggling the lines, and he seems like he has no problem continuing to juggle the lines, means that we're not out of it. He's not content. I mean, he had to be absolutely content with last night's effort. But like you said, Lindsey, in the whole scheme of things, in the 8-game road trip, they got 9 points out of it, which is acceptable. It's a plus 500 trip. But you could tell he wasn't happy process-wise, coach speak-wise. And I expect that he's going to keep the blender going pretty good until he gets them to realize that they're not there yet and they need to be better.
I almost wonder if he's go ahead, Chap. Go ahead.
There's definitely going to be some daggers thrown, I think, because what I like about Bruce is there's never any subtlety in when he's angry. He may not specifically call player A out by name, but he does sometimes too. And what I like is there's no BS. Like if you're in his doghouse, you're in his doghouse. And the entire team, maybe outside of Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson, were in his doghouse for a couple of nights. But it's just you mentioned the 8 of 9. It's such a weird scheduling quirk that you go on the East Coast and play 5 games. Was it 5? Yeah, 5 games. Then you come home for 1. And then you play 3 more on the road. You're home for 2, and then you're back out on the road again. So it's a strange setup, but we'll see how things go against the Capitals and the St. Louis Blues. I believe it's the first time that Ivan Barbashev will play against the Blues. I could be wrong on that. I know last time we saw the Blues, Yuri Patera got the shutout in Vegas. But I don't remember if that was post-trade deadline or pre-trade deadline. Nonetheless, he's going to go back to St. Louis for the first time. What is it, Tuesday night?
It's a home game, isn't it?
Yeah, but then they play St. Louis on the 6th.
That's right. It's back-to-back, Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a home and then road, which is
that's right.
Always my favorite types of games, because if there's any bad blood that spills over, it's still there the next night.
That was the cornerstone of old-time hockey.
Oh, it's great.
The Red Wings and the Maple Leafs would play on Friday night in Detroit, and they would get on the train and they'd go up the 401 and play in Toronto on Saturday. That was I think that they should do that more often.
I like it. I like that.
I also think that they should almost, we've never talked about it, but it's always like been a little nugget back here. I like when they play mini series against each other, like they did during the COVID years.
Yeah,
like baseball does. That gives you the chance to get some fine quality hate going.
Yeah. Like imagine if Vegas played Edmonton like 3 times in the span of like 9 days or something.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're okay, right? 15-4-4, 34 points, leading the Pacific, leading the Western Conference. I think the Rangers are leading the NHL right now. But I mean, it's a slog now. It's December 1st. There's they're already starting to totally hype the Winter Classic gizmo thing. And it's a slog. And they went through a time where they didn't seem too concerned, and they played like a team that wasn't really motivated to do much of anything. And messages were sent and messages were received. And like I said, we'll see how these next 3 go, because they're all winnable games.
Yeah. By the way, Vegas with 34, the Rangers and Bruins both with 33. So.
Oh, okay.
But, still, those are two teams you haven't seen yet, and they're both going to be really, really primed to go because I think both of them have Stanley Cup aspirations.
I would like to talk about Jack Eichel. 1-2 last night. In his 500th NHL game, Jack Eichel has 470 points in 500 NHL games. That makes him fifth in American scorers for the first 500 games. Lindsey, you want to take a shot at who the other four people who have scored more points than Jack Eichel in his first 500
Mike
games?
Modano's in there.
Nope.
Oh, really? Patrick Kane.
Patrick Kane, yes.
Who's like another prolific American scorer?
Think about a bad porn mustache.
I typically stay away from those individuals, so none of them are really coming to mind. Give me the other ones.
Austin Matthews.
Yeah. Really?
Oh, yeah, him.
Bad porn mustache, Austin Matthews. Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm.
The Kachuk.
Speaking of which, are you pumped that they signed Patty on your hometown?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great for
Let's get through this and we'll talk a little bit about some goings on in the NHL.
Okay,
Patty Kane, Austin Matthews, the Kachuk that's in Florida, not Brady, Matthew.
Oh, I suppose I didn't even think of like the current players. I'm like, oh, I suppose the scoring's probably up.
And the last one is Johnny Hockey.
So these are five
not
players.
this year, but
Not this year, but fastest to 500 games. Eichel has 470 points. And if you think about it, he played on an awfully shitty team for a long time and still racked up those kind of points. Could you imagine
with William Nylander?
Could you imagine if we took out 2 of those years and added those as Golden Knights years?
He's well over 500.
Oh yeah, he wrecks them. But that's pretty significant. First of all, 500 games. You know, I wonder
I feel old.
I wonder if there was a time where he thought he would never get there. You know, in the lulls of recovery, in the dark days of Buffalo when they wouldn't let him have the surgery. I wonder if that meant more to him than, I mean, Ashley asked him about it last night and he talked about it. But the deeper question is, I wonder if he really went deep and said, this is really a something.
You know, I think anytime you get to 500 games, it's an accomplishment, right? It's a testament to how good of a player you are. You know, I mean, you look through the annals of the record books, and there's probably a lot more guys who didn't reach 500 games than guys who did reach 500 games in the NHL. So it's always going to be an amazing accomplishment anytime you reach a milestone like that. And I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface with how good of a player Jack Eichel is. Like, I mean, I feel like there's a ceiling that we haven't reached yet, and we're lucky because we get to watch it live almost every night. So it's pretty cool. And my dog is chewing the shit out of my hand here, but
he's teething.
Yeah, he's being a little bastard right now, but no offense to Jack Eichel, but Kojiro is not interested in me talking about him right now.
I feel like Jack Eichel's just getting out of his teething phase, though, right? Like
that's a great analogy.
Because, like you said, and we've talked about just, I think how high the ceiling is for him with his skating ability, with his shooting ability. It really seems the only thing that could get in his way is potential injury, because he's set up so well here, right?
Yeah.
And with an organization that's going to do everything in their power to make him successful, right? To build a good team around him, to utilize and weaponize the talent that he is. And so I think he's going to have a chance to put his name up there. I mean, it comes with championships, right? Like, it's going to be hard to knock Patrick Kane off of the top spot of the greatest American-born player right now, like without 3 cups. But who's to say that's not out of the realm of possibility here? And maybe the only knock you can really have is when you play on a team that's so well stocked that, you know, there's not going to be as many awards coming your way. Your point totals might be a little bit diminished than they otherwise would be, but I think that's a fair trade. And so I think he's considering the gauntlet that he had to go through in that period of doubt that certainly I think all athletes go through whenever they go through an injury, to have that be the catalyst for what his potential is today. I'm like, that's one of those moments where you kind of look back and you're like, all right, let's think back to where I was when I learned about the injury and everything was up in the air. And now I'm here. I won a Stanley Cup. I play with Mark Stone on a regular basis. Like, life is good. Like, it almost seems like that was almost a worthy sacrifice, but I don't want to say that because that's like putting value on somebody getting injured or something like that. So that's not right. But man, I'm pumped for him. I'm really excited to see what he's gonna bring this team this year and going forward.
You touched on a couple things, Lindsey. The first being that because of the team he plays on, there may not be an opportunity for a lot of accolades that come his way. Like,
oh, he's never going to win the Rocket Richard.
Yeah, but like I was thinking about last night, he may not even be an all-star. Like William Karlsson is probably a guy who should be, based on what he's done, probably should be at least one of the representatives for the Golden Knights. And that's not to say they won't have more, but if you got to go for the guy right now who probably should be the representative, I think it's got to be William Karlsson. But that's not to diminish anything that Jack has accomplished, because he's having a really good season, and he's doing it by doing something we haven't seen. Well, we never saw in Buffalo, and that was the 200-foot Jack Eichel out on the penalty kill and being a real integral part of what they do defensively. But the other thing you touched on was the moment where it all came together, right? Jack, you go through those dark days and the light at the end of the tunnel is there. You get the trade, you're out of Buffalo, you get to put that behind you, but then you got to come to Vegas and you got to rehab, right? Like, there's still no guarantee that you're going to be the player you were before the injury, but watching it all come together post-injury, post-trade, like, it's such a cool thing to watch. And I enjoy when Jack talks to us. I feel like I learn a lot when he talks to us, because he's an intelligent guy and he's good. Like all the stories I had heard about him seem like bullshit to me. And the other aspect is he plays on a team that no matter who's a free agent, who's out there, this is a team and an ownership group and a general manager and a president of hockey operations that lay it out on the line every single season. They don't give a fuck who they piss off. Their goal is to win and only win. And look, Jack's got a lot more time here. And there's going to be good players that we're not even talking about today that end up in Vegas that play with Jack Eichel. So the opportunity,
Draisaitl.
So the opportunity for him to win more is absolutely going to be in the cards until he retires.
I want to talk about, and I'm going off the board here, I think Ben Hutton has been absolutely fantastic since the mystery illness or injury to Alec Martinez, and now the upper body injury that required surgery to Shea Theodore. We get a little bit of a rotation with Pickles and Caden Korzak, Pickles being Braden Pahal. But Ben Hutton, I play defense, so I'm probably a little bit biased. But man, oh man, the value that fella brings to this team as the seventh defenseman, I don't know if there's enough flowers that we can give to him. He rushes the puck up the ice. Listen, we got to get him on the podcast, because when we've got a chance to talk to him, he's a blast.
Yeah, he's a fun guy.
He's a fun guy. He don't think too much of himself. So Garrett, we're coming for Huttie. Just letting you know, since you watch the podcast, we're coming for Huttie and Cotter.
G Money watches the podcast?
Oh, guaranteed. He's got to report back
awesome.
to the big
man.
Is he
a subscriber? Have we checked in on that?
I don't know. Are we able to do that? Are we able to see?
I don't know. I'm just wondering. It's like, have you contributed to the cause to 200 yet? Like, G Money. Like, you gotta.
Let's go, buddy.
You're a friend of the program.
So I can't say enough good things. He got his first goal. I think now Zach Whitecloud is the only one that hasn't opened their account this year, but he's only played 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, Kolosar got his in the same game.
Yeah.
But
Whitey will go bar down in some random game for a game winner. He always does. And
From
then,
the dot.
He hit a
from the
post the
dot,
other
and the
night, too.
net is always on this side of to our right from the press
Yep.
box. He always scores there.
Was it him that hit iron the other night too? I thought.
Yep.
So
But-
he's close.
But just, I mean, Ben Hutton's getting PP2 time now because Pietrangelo moved up. So he's quarterbacking I don't know. I'm shamelessly slurping on the guy because the fact that he goes 2 and 3 and 4 weeks sometimes and 20 games sometimes and doesn't play, and the fact that he shows up and he's absolutely seamless. Right now he's the hot guy for me. That's it.
He's
Shameless
playing
plug.
free. He's
Right.
playing free. And that's the thing. Like, there's something about players that play without fear, and it can be a double-edged sword, right? Because there's some people like Huttie that are able to take it. Like, of course I'm going to rush the puck because that's what the situation calls for. Instead of having that in the back of like, I'm Ben Hutton, maybe I'm not the best person to be rushing the puck. Like, that's great that he doesn't have that. But then sometimes you have people that go too far on that spectrum. And I think that has to do with the fact that he doesn't take himself super seriously. Like, he knows he's just out there and that he's there to contribute and obviously win and be a big part of that win. But I think he knows his role, and that as that expands, as they've asked more from him, I think he kind of is a mascotty guy. Like, I think he's a levity dude, kind of like what Phil Kessel was, not as sly. I haven't obviously been in the locker with any of these guys, but just the way that he talks and seems to interact with the guys. I think he's just one of those teammates that's really fun to play with because he's just like, yeah, let's go do it. Let's go rush it. Why not? Those are fun.
I mean, think about it. He's making $1 million a year. He's living in Vegas. He's got a Stanley Cup ring.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's got to be, I don't want to say
he's hit
stealing.
the lottery.
Yeah, I don't want to say he's stealing, but he really did hit the NHL jackpot for a seventh defenseman. You can't do much more than that, but he produces, and clearly Bruce trusts him up and down, no matter what. So our player of the podcast episode for today is Huttie, number 17, Vegas Golden Knights.
The other aspect of this is there's a lot of guys who are in his position who, when they're called upon to step into the lineup, they try to do too much and they play like shit because of it. Ben Hutton, you don't see that where the pressure of having to perform when you're called upon gets to him. You don't see him out there trying to be a hero. You don't see him out there trying to impress the coaching staff. He just goes out there and he does what he's supposed to do. Like, I don't know, like, it just speaks to the genius of Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee that they saw something in this guy who, mind you, was on a fucking couch because he was out of the league a couple years ago. And they saw something that all these other teams didn't. Like, Ben Hutton, he's a guy who I would say on almost every team in the NHL, he's at least a third pairing defenseman.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it's not even debatable. And here he is on this team. He's clearly locked into that 7th spot.
Yes.
And he gets to play. Like, that's the other thing. Like, he gets to play. So, like, you're not a 7th defenseman and you're playing with a team of Ironmen who don't miss games and you're only going to play 10, 12 games a year. Like, Ben Hutton plays a healthy amount of games, and
he's liable to get 30 or 40 this year, the way it's going right now.
Like, it's pretty fucking awesome because I think I like the guy a lot. Like, I love talking to Ben Hutton because he's fun, he's loose, he's cool. Like, he is a cool guy and he doesn't take himself too serious. And like, you root for that guy. You have to root for that guy. I don't care if you're a Golden Knights fan or not. Ben Hutton is a guy you root for just based on the backstory.
Okay. I have a riddle for you.
Riddle me this.
Riddle me this. What is 55.76 miles per hour that travels 148.7 feet and goes at 16.5 feet in the air?
Is that a Tristan Jarry goal?
It is. It's a goalie goal.
What number does he wear?
I have no idea.
I
That'd be
don't know.
number 35. You know what Linus Allmark wears? The last goalie goal that was scored
Oh,
before that.
God.
35?
And you know what Pecorine wears?
35.
The
How
last
about
goalie
that?
goal to be scored before that. I mean, it's a trend.
Goalie goal. Lindsey Brown. That's Tristan Jarry, first NHL goalie goal this year.
Did you wear 35, Lindsey?
Obviously.
I did.
Ah,
It's in the social media handle. It's part of the brand.
And she'll wear
that's what that stands for.
she'll wear 35 in the soon to be arriving limited edition Hockey Nights in Vegas sweaters.
Nice.
We got sweaters.
There are sweaters coming.
Cool.
I landed
my wardrobe needs an upgrade. Are they like
Yeah.
ugly holiday sweaters? Or are they just
no.
sweat? Oh no. Are they jerseys?
They are jerseys. They are serious NHL quality. I landed a nice consulting gig for my real job, and I have a couple extra pesos in my account this week. So
what color are they? Like Golden Knights jerseys? Like what are they? What color is it?
I don't want to spoil the surprise, but they are reminiscent of one of the 6 NHL Vegas Golden Knight kits.
Oh, nice.
God.
They're
like 90% of them. Oh well.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. I'll give you this one. They're not gray. They're not the original gray because I hate that one.
Yeah.
So they're either the white.
Yeah, that's like their worst jersey.
They're either the white, the red, the majestic gold, the black, or the antique gold for this year.
Oh.
I feel like you got us winter classies.
I like the antique gold.
I got to tell you, I smashed it on a Facebook post, but then I went down to the whatever the place is called at City National.
Arsenal.
It's a lot better looking in real life.
Yeah, I saw one in real life recently too, and I was like, man, that's pretty fucking sweet.
I mean, the front I think is still dumb. The V. Is it?
You're not.
I'm sorry to say, I'm sorry to say this, Lindsey, but it looks like a stripper with 2 pasties on. Sort of spinning
not
around.
Everybody gets to glorify their work uniforms. I mean, they're doing the Lord's work.
So Eddie came over for pie on Thanksgiving, and I had to explain to Junko, my wife, what pasties were.
Yeah, that was
God.
Yes.
With my mom sitting to the left of me, scarfing down her apple pie.
I just use hockey tape. That's what you do under dresses. That's just smart. Well, you put a Band-Aid on it so it doesn't rip your skin out.
Oh.
Just in case you guys needed tips. Or the chicken cutlets.
I just don't know how this has digressed from.
Well, you brought up pasties. I can't bring my own experience as a woman to this podcast. We can talk about it from your lens, but I bring my insight.
Do you want me to Do you want me to post the picture that? Do you want me to post the picture that you posted?
What picture?
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, my Miley Cyrus costume? Bitch, that's on Instagram already. I don't give a shit.
Let's just say that I might have a picture of Lindsey sporting exactly what she was talking about.
Not weird.
What?
Not weird at all.
No, I was saving it for a very important moment.
Sure. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I rocked that. And I had burns on my back for days after that party because I used duct tape to make what are the suspenders? Because Miley Cyrus went to a red carpet one time and like literally just suspenders. So that's what I did. My mom helped me tape it up. You can't shame me. You can't slut shame me.
Okay. So yes, there is a Hockey Nights in Vegas jersey in cooperation with the great people at Men's League Sweaters.
Cool.
Sweet. Thank you in advance.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so Chapman, I need to know, I don't know if you ever played sports, but what number would you like on the back of your jersey?
Well, I did play sports. Usually it was a sport where I didn't wear a number, believe it or not. I know looking at me, you would be surprised, but I was actually a very competitive runner at one point in my life. And then I discovered beer and fast food, and that changed very quickly. But I used to wear number 9 when I played baseball, which ironically is Jack Eichel's number.
Ironically, Jack knew.
He knew.
What's your
He knew.
number, Eddie?
He knew that Chapman wore number 9 in the Lakewood Little League Blue Jays team. So he had to go out and wear number 9 because he realized this Chapman guy was so bad at Little League baseball that there was no way anyone else who ever wore number 9 in the history of sports could be that bad.
I am leaning towards 6. Because
that would be fitting.
You
6 and 9 over there. Perfect.
Six.
It'll be great for branding.
Well, when I was a mite, I wore 9 because Gordie Howe, everybody in Detroit wore 9. But then when I played defense, I wore 4. But then when I got to high school, 4 was taken by a senior, so I ended up with 6.
What about 5? Didn't Nikki Lidstrom wear 5?
Nikki Lidstrom wore 5. I never wore. I'm
shocked.
5. So I kind of want to get a number that I wore at some point in my life.
6 isn't the worst even number.
No,
I don't know. There's just that, some numbers I'm just like, ew. Like you just ew.
12 is the worst even number.
Yeah, who the fuck?
Yeah, 12 sucks.
12 sucks.
One of my best friends wore 12, and I don't care. That's not a great number. 34 also sucks.
It's been a busy week in the NHL. And we should talk a little bit about some of the things. The first thing that comes to mind is, am I losing my mind? Teams are trading players to direct competitors in their division. And it started out with
the Zadorov deal.
Calgary traded a big, mean-spirited Nikita Zadorov, who went in and not asked for a trade, demanded a trade. And they traded him to Vancouver
after he asked for Toronto.
Yeah, and they traded him for.
That's why they traded him to Vancouver. You know that, right?
But they traded him to an in-division rival for a bag of pucks and a pizza box, a 3rd and a 5th, and the 5th was the one that they just got a couple days ago from the other deal. Trading within the division.
It's weird. The whole Zadorov thing is funny because he went out and he laid some lumber against the Maple Leafs, and then right after the game, he's like, I'd like to play with these guys.
Yeah, very strange, but that was kind of interesting and weird. Man, oh man, this Corey Perry thing. I'm glad that
those rumors are not true.
I mean, you know what? Those rumors are fucking disgusting.
They really are.
That's some asshole sitting behind a keyboard trying to find the most grandiose, ridiculous thing. And the problem is that people gave it fucking legs. And I'm not going to.
Hockey culture 101, shit on women.
And I'm not going to dignify the asshole that started that by repeating what it was. But just the fact that thing got legs, and that their GM had to go out and emotionally end that rumor.
Well, then Corey Perry had to release a statement basically saying it was bullshit too, and it was unfair to the individual to
apologize first. But yeah,
and I commend him for coming out and saying what it was, and I'm glad that it wasn't the rumor. I knew it wasn't the rumor. But the fact that he has decided to go into the player assistance program and take care of himself. Now, listen, as a hockey player, I fucking hate him. I wish Ryan Reeves would have punched him into retirement. But the fact is, as a human being, that he is taking the time to take care of himself, I think that's the big takeaway from this whole thing.
Well, that's what really matters at the end of the day, is getting yourself clean, getting yourself healthy, and living your life post hockey. And I have a feeling that Corey Perry's a guy who will have opportunities because he's won a couple Stanley Cups. Yeah. He was a really solid player for a long time in this league. Some people like them, some people don't like them, but I think at the end of the day, you just want these guys to live healthy lives post hockey, and that's a step. It's a step in the right direction.
Well, let's also. He already took accountability, but let's talk about that. That's also very important too, because it's not just like being shit-faced or having an addiction isn't an excuse to be a piece of shit or act out or do something dumb. And I don't know what he did. I've heard rumors that aren't the ones that everybody else is talking to. I got my people that throughout the league, and you know, accountability is everything. And I want to personally commend the Chicago Blackhawks for learning from the shit that they allowed for years with all the Kyle Beach stuff, for them taking the time, taking swift action and investigating this. And everybody's like, what's going on? Why we need answers? We need answers. We're not privy to the answers instantaneously when it comes to this stuff, because it's not all about Corey Perry. It's about whatever happened to other people that Corey Perry was doing to her, was the instigator. Correct. And so that's where it's like, I'm really enthused by seeing that from Chicago. I'm more enthused that Corey took accountability and is going to assistance program and all that other stuff. Like, I understand it, but let's not excuse away or say like, well, this is why I did the bad behavior. There's no excuse for bad behavior, whatever you're doing. So good for them for taking the action, and hopefully he gets help. And if somebody's willing to take a chance on him, we'll see.
And the highlight of the week in the NHL, in my opinion, was watching Grandma Kachuk while his two grandchildren got into a line brawl in the Florida, Ottawa game. I mean, what a fantastic game. And kudos to the referee who decided he didn't want to name 10 names for misconducts and just said every fucking buddy on the ice gets 10. And I mean, what a spectacular call. And he actually had another really good call in the Detroit Red Wing game last night. But, you know, the Kachuk boys they're a little feisty. And that game, Florida was they were just pumping Ottawa. It ended up like 5-0. But, you know, they cut away to Big Walt when the brawls were going on, and he was just having a hot dog and a beer and couldn't really care.
Right. But I think there's a promise to Mom that they'll never like fight, drop the gloves. I think there's an article, that distresses them immensely.
Right.
But in terms of like chopping it up, I mean, there's nobody better to chop it up against.
But Grandma Kachuk.
Oh, I'm just seeing this. She's literally like,
right? She's giving you this, and she's giving you this. But goddamn, is that not just what makes hockey? When your grandmother can sit there,
and Matthew's sitting in the box at the same thing. It's the hereditary, just like posture. It's unbelievable.
Lindsey and I both played, and I know in my hockey playing time, there have been times where I've looked up to find my father in the stands, and he had a terribly condescending look, like, you fucking asshole. Don't you realize that the guy wasn't wearing the same color jersey as you when you passed the puck? And I mean, everybody who's played hockey has had those parental unit moments in the stand, whether they look up to them for support when, you know, they're playing in the biggest game of their life in front of the biggest crowd. My dad
would go like this.
Right.
I look at everybody, would go like this. You go, Foosh. That was our thing.
And I mean, my dad stood up with all of the dads, and they never stood near the moms, right? And the moms, I mean, when I was the moms were the terrified ones. I mean, unfortunately, you know, my mom has seen me, you know, leave the ice in a pool of blood, and seen me leave the ice on a stretcher a couple of times. But the parental units, the things that parents go through to raise a hockey player kid. I mean, so Mama Kachuk gets the award for just the best video of the week in the NHL. And the last big news story is Patty Kane. And I'm a little shocked. I mean, you guys know, you watch the podcast, you know I'm a Red Wings guy. I'll always be a Red Wings guy. 1 year, $2.75 million prorated, so he gets about $2 million and a little bit of change after that.
I'll take that.
But I'm sure that he had offers for teams that are closer to contending for the cup. yet he chose the Red Wings. I mean, certainly part of it is playing with Alex DeBrincat, who scored 41 goals both years that he played on a line with Patty Kane. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to drink the soup, the tea. The Red Wings, I think, might just make the playoffs this year.
Are they back?
They're not back. They're not quite back. But I mean, he's a 3 Stanley Cups, arguably the greatest American player. As good a scorer as he is a passer, and it's going to be a lovely time watching him as a veteran play with those kids that are young and fast in Detroit. And I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I would be. And by the way, shout out to Mickey Redmond.
The greatest. The fucking great. Mickey.
Who had an unbelievable analogy last night after a goal was scored. And I'm trying to think who it was that scored the goal. Was it Robbie Fabry who scored the goal for the Red Wings? Mm-hmm. And he undressed the defender for the Blackhawks. And Mickey Redmond with the comment, there is now a jock strap hanging from the big scoreboard here where Robbie Fabry undressed whoever the player was.
Who had a goal last night. Nice move there. Fabry right in, a goal! Oh, he scores! What a play! Robbie Fabry, red hot! It's some of equipment. Oh, my goodness. Did he undress him or what? Or has it got a piece of it? As I look at the big board, there's a jock strap hanging on it, and it belongs to Kaiser. Oh, my.
I love listening to the old school, like old-time hockey guys. Like, it seems like those guys are unfortunately a dying breed. Like, Mickey Redmond has the voice. He's got the delivery, and he's got the analogies. Like my heart broke when Rick Jenneret passed away because he was one of my favorite guys to listen to. And of course, his call with Brad May's goal years and years ago is one of those just incredible hockey calls where if you're a fan of the game, you just get goosebumps when you hear it. But getting back to Patrick Kane, like, it's a great signing for Detroit because there's relatively no risk involved, right? It's a 1-year deal.
Not relative. There's no risk. Well,
yeah, no risk at all.
If he's not healthy, they put him on LTIR.
Yeah, and the injury he's coming back from is a brutal injury, and the surgery, the hip, what is it? Hip
resurfacing. Resurfacing.
Where I'm not going to go into it. Just Google that fucking thing and ask yourself, would you want to subject yourself to what that particular surgery entails? Because I looked it up, and it's one of those ones.
It's gruesome.
Yeah, it really is. But look, it's good for Detroit, and I hope they're back because to me, there's certain teams that just belong in the playoffs. And as good as the NHL playoffs are, it's missing something when the Red Wings aren't good, when the Blackhawks aren't good. Well, any of the original 6
for sure.
Stink, it's not as fun. Although I like it better when the Bruins stink and the Rangers stink.
Yes.
But I don't mind the Canadian teams. I don't mind Detroit or Chicago. Like, I still get excited when the Red Wings roll into T-Mobile because it's an opportunity. Anytime you see an original 6 team, it's incredible. But there's just something magical when the Wings come into town and they bring their legions and legions of fans. And you see T-Mobile, and maybe Golden Knight fans will get on my case about it, but I enjoy seeing those red sweaters in the stands because there's just a certain nostalgic feel to it. You know, my team won their first Stanley Cup when they beat the Red Wings. So there's a little bit of history for me involved with the Red Wings. And I love Dylan Larkin. So I hope the Red Wings, maybe not back, but become a contender for the playoffs. It's just better that way.
I'm a fan of Dylan Larkin too, and I just want to extend. I know they don't listen to this podcast, obviously, or whatever this is. But him and his wife Kenzie lost their child in miscarriage, and that was announced earlier today. And that's obviously a very tragic loss, and one that I don't think a lot of people talk about their experiences going through that, whether that's women that suffer that physically directly or their partners. And so obviously extend that to Dylan, but then all the other people that have had that experience in their life. And I'm guessing whenever you see something like that come up in the news, and it's great to be open and honest about it, but it reminds people, I think too. And so if you're one of those people, take care of yourself.
So let's sort of wrap up by looking ahead. The next 2 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 7 games in the next couple of weeks. They open up with the Capitals here in Vegas, couple of St. Louis, Dallas, then our favorite pincushion comes to town, the Sharks.
And then a couple of those East Coast teams that we don't get to see a lot of, Buffalo and Ottawa.
Yeah, and Calgary comes in, and then Alex Tuck comes in with arguably the worst porn mustache in the history of the NHL, and we'll see if we can get that picture up because it's frightening. He might have shaved it off as it's December 1st. But looking ahead at the schedule, I think they wrap up the season series with Dallas, which is pretty early to get that. But there's an awful lot of winnable games coming up for the Golden Knights. You know, they were up 8-9 points in the West, got down to 1. Now I think it's back up to 3, but they still have a lot of road coming. You know, only still let's see. Well, they got 5 home games. I like it. I mean, Buffalo, Ottawa, and then they do their next little road trip, the Southeast trip, which is fantastic. Yeah. Carolina and the Floridas.
Yeah, those are always good games. That's a tough road trip too, because all 3 of those teams are highly competitive. And look, with the Panthers, you've certainly got a little. And I think that's the last of the 3.
It is. It's an afternoon game.
Yeah, early, like noon. I think puck drop for us. So maybe even earlier. But that's look. You're looking ahead. There's definitely some winnable games in there, and there's games the Golden Knights need to win. You know, as far as Dallas, I don't really pay too much attention to what happens in that finale because Dallas swept Vegas in the regular season last year.
Right.
And it meant nothing in the playoffs. So I think it's fun, and I'd like to see a little more fireworks between these 2 teams because I think they don't like each other, much like Edmonton and Vegas don't like each other. So I think it's going to be, look, it's exciting. This December is a lot of fun, and then you close it out. I know you got a few games in between the Florida game and New Year's Day, but you got the fucking Winter Classic in 1 month from today. Yeah. 1 month from today is the Winter Classic. So, you know, it's going to be an exciting month.
Rack up those points, stick to the process.
Yeah, that's good. That's the theme, right? Start getting while the getting's good here. Mm-hmm. And
you don't give those back. So
no. That's it. I think we're done. Episode 62. I don't know what the hell we can call this because we certainly went all over the board this time.
Well, you have to have a Ben Hutton, I think, themed.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I think it has to be the tassels.
Oh, God.
Call it the tassel episode.
Right.
I just prefer the double bird, but that's me.
The double bird.
Huttie and the Tassels.
There we go.
And I'm sure he would love that.
Like Hootie and the Blowfish.
I would love it.
We have Huttie and the Tassels or Huttie and the Pasties. All right, so we'll work on the name. Hit like, hit subscribe. I'm not begging anymore. Fuck it.
Listen, I'll beg.
Unless it's Garrett, then we're like, what the hell?
Yeah, right. G Money.
G Money. If you haven't subscribed yet,
India.
Get your life on track.
India, let's go.
She watches too. What up?
Let's go.
They're great people. They're great people.
I love GC.
Well, now they're gonna know about my pasty story. You think they'll make eye contact with me the next time we see them?
Absolutely.
Good thing I don't go to press conferences for a little while still. Otherwise, it might be awkward.
You're getting stared down.
Yeah, you're like, let's just say I know how to be part of a costume party. Okay.
I gotta hang out with you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to the Las Vegas Advisor. www.lasvegasadvisor.com for your everything in Las Vegas. Dining tips, entertainment tips, restaurant tips, stripper tips, anything you need to know. Good. I got the Lindsey look out of that one. Anything that you need to know about Vegas, the Las Vegas Advisor is your place to find it. www.lasvegasadvisor.com. And my good friend, Dr. John Pierce, at Ageless Forever, www.agelessforever.net. If your hormones are out of balance, Dr. Pierce is the way to go to fix that issue. And we'll talk more about other things that he specializes in future episodes. So that's it. We were all over the board. Huttie and the Tassels. Huttie and the Tassels.
I only want to be with you.
Why don't you clear that with G Money first before we ruin any other interview opportunities?
Oh, yeah. Good idea. All right, folks. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining. Hit that subscribe button. That's the end of my begging. We are out of here. Peace.